Look, this is George. After a whole week taking a break from the live videos, I decided to come back and just do a. Just gonna wait if anybody. What's going on, Dennis? Welcome back. Uh, so, Stephanie, how you doing? Ventura, what's going on? Richard J. Alexander, welcome, sir. Good to see you. A lot of people. Miss you too, Richard J. Lane, what's going on? Ryan, good to see you. Uh, I hope you're all well. I'm not gonna do a very long video today. What's going on? Uh, I Larry did um video today. I Up until basically this morning, I was still debating with myself whether I should go live. And as we all know, there has been a lot of terrible news that has affected us all. Starting with 100,000 people dead from coronavirus, over 100,000 now. I don't know how many million infected. The murder of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, the murder of Breonna Taylor, and the murder of George Floyd. And, you know, the sad thing is that this is happening every day. And these three um, individuals, are three individuals of many Black Americans that are murdered by the police every day. Also, I should probably say, if you're looking for something that's not political, that's not going to happen. Not on my base chat. You know, I'm going to get into that in a second. Um, so the reason why I didn't do a video last week is because every time this happens, every time a story like this hits, um, I find it difficult to go back to business as usual. It's what's going on, Hashim. I'm having a hard time doing that. I live this reality, and and this might be news to a lot of people, but I live also a reality that's embedded in the African American experience, and that is the reality of colorism. I am a light skinned African American man, and I have a strong accent. So it's people have a hard time putting me somewhere, for whatever reason. Um, we all need, I don't know, people need to put people somewhere, you know. With my accent and the way I look, people have a hard time putting me anywhere. And what does happen, unfortunately, rather often is that mostly white males um, think I'm one of them. And then all of a sudden, the mask comes off and things happen and things are being said that usually that would not have been said um, if a darker skinned person were in the room. So that is a reality that's very unique to me. I'm by no means the only person who lives this reality, but it is something that I need to acknowledge. Um, and that comes with an array of opportunities that other African Americans, darker skinned African Americans, don't get. Still, that also comes with an area of stereotypical thinking and stereotypes that are being put on me. Um, that are uh, difficult to deal with. And here's the reason why they're difficult to deal with. Not because they hurt my feelings, okay? It's not, that's not what this is about. Stereotypes are difficult to deal with because they inhibit your way of making a living. They inhibit your way of being yourself in the world. Um, and that's why they suck. Uh, what's going on, Ted Gould? Good to see you, man. I wish I had some old days here. I had to put that in there. Nevertheless, so yeah, the reason why I didn't do a live video last week was because as I hope, most of Americans and apparently all around the world was heartbroken by the images that were coming through the internet. I live without cable, have been this way for many, many years. I don't watch TV anymore. Um, so I get my news from the internet, I get my news from print media, and I get my news from independent media as the Young Turks, the Damage Report, stuff like that. Uh, and I should also probably preface that the murder of George Floyd, which was so publicized, is something that I am having a hard time dealing with. I have seen every member of my family die uh, in bad circumstances, be it mostly illness, but also drug abuse, alcohol abuse. Hell, we had murder in our family. We had potential suicide. Nobody really knows. We had sudden child death. I've seen enough dead people, and there are certain things that I tend to stay away from um, because, as I said, I've seen every member of my family die. Um, that is my life. That is my um, history. Part of my history, I should say. So I'm having a hard time looking at images of people dying. I feel like it's something that's you know I know the dude is dead. All right, I know that he got killed. I know he got murdered in cold blood. Um, I There's this thing here in the U.S. about the alleged murder and the alleged this and the alleged that. I'm sorry. I maybe this is because I was raised in Europe and raised in Vienna, but that is tragically wrong and tragically misplaced at times. Um, this is perhaps one of those instances. So I couldn't get myself to do a live video last week. There was just no way. I needed to reflect. I needed to kind of go inwards. I needed to be there for my partner. I needed to be there for my community, um, as small or as big as it is. And I needed to be there. I think that I would urge everyone to do just that. Be there for yourself. Go inward and see what you can do to make this better. Knowing full well that white identity politics are not something that anybody else but white people can fix. And that's a reality. That's the reality that's underlying this tragedy. So, why did I decide to do a live video today, albeit a brief one? Today would have been Breonna Taylor's 27th birthday. And that is something um, that needs to be pointed out. Um, this lady was working as a nurse at two hospitals, And the only reason why I'm pointing this out is because I don't believe that the media is paying enough attention to her story, and I don't believe that, not to take anything away from the other tragedies, all of them are horrific. But I wanted to use my time to highlight her life, and I don't have any more details than what I learned via the news. But apparently, one night, um, some time ago, uh, police barged into her home and didn't identify themselves. Um, as a case of mistaken identity. The Apparently the gentleman they were looking for was already in custody, and from what I understand, Breonna Taylor's partner opened fire because they thought that they were, who can, you know, I can certainly understand that. To which the police, the unidentified police, responded by firing over 20 rounds, eight of which killed Breonna Taylor in her bed, asleep or close to asleep. And that is, for whatever reason, that doesn't get, in my opinion, doesn't get enough coverage. Plus the fact that if it hadn't been for all the other tragedies, we would not know her name. We meaning the public. Um, and that is unforgivable. It's unconscionable. There was an attempt to put, silence this, make this go away. And gladly, that's not happening anymore. Gladly, her name is being put out there. Hopefully, there's going to be, and of the officers who fired these shots, nobody has been arrested so far. So very much like the lady who, and I'm too upset right now to remember all names. I should have probably written them down, but I thought that was kind of morbid. Um, very much like the lady who got pulled over after getting a new job um, in Texas, I believe. We wouldn't know. We still really don't know because very little has been made public. And that is the US in 2020. And that's happening almost every day. And that amount of PTSD, post traumatic stress syndrome, um, is is on the American people and predominantly on Black people. I also believe that it's affecting the white population, but it most definitely affects the Black population, and try dealing with that. So I wanted to use today's live video just to pay attention, just to sorry, to shine a light on Breonna Taylor and on her case and on the viciousness, on the inhumanity that went down. Um, it's the same inhumanity, it's the same viciousness that killed George Floyd, that killed Ahmaud Arbery, and please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name. Um, it's the same viciousness that kills Black Americans almost every day, and I'm sure that there are numbers and statistics out there. So keep that in mind today. When you are on social media, you hear news reports of so-called looting and rioting and all this nonsense, whereas people are demonstrating and have, are, from what I understand, have a right to demonstrate this behavior and these policies. Uh, Keep that in mind. Keep her in mind when that little moment, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but just in case I'm not preaching to the choir, keep that in mind when that little moment and that little voice comes up in your head that says, yeah, but maybe. I get upset about the yeah buts. I get upset about the I don't want to be political posts. I get upset about the, what was it? Um, Out of personal reasons, I don't believe anybody. How can you be so dumb? Um, One thing that perhaps uh, I can add to this is the I don't want to be political posts. I think we need to, as a whole, as musicians, uh, as performing artists, we need to get rid of that. That is, we play music that's coming directly out of the African American experience. And without that experience, this music would not exist, no matter what you play, no matter which instrument you play, no matter which style, genre, what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you worship at the altar of the Beatles or at the altar of Motown. You are playing music that's directly coming out of the African American experience, that is black music. Um, and in as such, it is an expression of black culture, African American culture, which always has had a tremendous amount of resistance. So to say that I'm not going to be political, but I make my living playing this music is, the word hypocritical comes to mind, at least for me. I can't speak for anybody else. Uh, I also understand that there are, you know, other considerations. A mostly white fan base, first of all. Mostly white support system in terms of companies that you endorse, that endorse you, and there might be, a mostly wide support system in terms of work, of gatekeepers of work, contractors or coordinators, um, other musicians. By saying I don't want to be political, you are legitimizing the microaggressions. You're legitimizing the sometimes veiled, sometimes not so veiled racism that still exists, and stereotypical, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Stereotypical work, stereotypical hiring practices. That was the word that I was looking for. Racist hiring practices. So, by virtue of playing jazz, by virtue of playing any kind of music that comes out of the African American experience. You are already making a political statement, whether you like it or not. This nonsense about I'm not being political really needs to go because it is hypocritical. This doesn't exist. This is a fairy tale that you're kind of trying to tell yourself in order not to piss off the wrong people, because perhaps you're afraid of them, perhaps they're your relatives, perhaps they are, your loved ones, perhaps they are, your neighbors. They're closer to you than you want to admit to. Nevertheless, um, the minute you plug in, the minute you walk a bass line, the minute you play whatever in the last, I don't know, 200 years, 100 and whatever years, um, as soon as you do that, you're making a political statement. There's no two ways about that. Uh, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as you reflect on Breonna Taylor. On hey, what's going on? I think Mark Egan just joined. That's awesome. Ruben Rodriguez, what's going on, man? Um, so keep that in mind. We don't have the luxury of saying, "Oh, I'm just not going to talk about these things." No, so that time is long gone. I would venture out to say that we never had that luxury. Um, certainly Black Americans never had that luxury. Um, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you list all your albums, when you list all your influences, all your musicians that you love that happen to be Black. Keep in mind that if any one of them, as light skinned as I am, myself included, any one of them gets pulled over at a traffic stop, our life is on the line. Their life is on the line. It's a life or death situation, just like that. So, where is, how does I'm not going to be political really work out there? It doesn't. Music is an expression of life. Music is a means of communicating. And as I said before, it is an expression that directly comes out of the African American experience. And as such, it has always spoken to resistance. It has always spoken to the fact that um, people were wronged. Um, and you can't separate that. Every expression of joy that you get out of listening to this music and or playing this music is an expression of African American resistance. It is basically our ancestors saying, we are here. And even with all this shit that's going on, we are still here and we know who we are. And nothing is going to break that. So keep that in mind. Um, I don't know if I can change minds. I don't know if I can influence people. I don't know. I don't know any of that. But I do have a voice, and I want to use it for speaking out, for speaking my truth. Um, and I think I'm going to leave you guys with that for today. As I said, this is not going to be a long video. This is not going to there's I have a hard time going back to business as usual. I will eventually um, continue, you know, talking about the shows I've played and talk about more music. But for now, you know, this is what's going on. Um, and we have demonstrations all over the U.S. We have hell, we have demonstrations all over the fucking planet. We have Bunker Baby barricading himself in the White House. And with all that going on, I find it hard. I find it really hard to go back to. And here's this show that I've played, and all of that stuff. You know, that's just me. My heart is heavy, um, and it will continue to stay heavy for ever. So, two things I wanted to share with you guys, just in case you're interested, and just in case whatever I just was talking about, you know, is something of interest. And these are books again. I am a big believer in books. Um, and both of these, in my opinion, talk directly to um, the white identity politics that govern, um, you know, a lot of U.S. history that were responsible for capitalism, for the genocide of Native Americans, and the enslavement of Africans who became African Americans. Um, before the Mayflower, get it? The History of Black America. Before the Mayflower is a fantastic book, and it has very valuable information. Um, and I believe that it has. There's been. I have the sixth revised edition. I believe that they're up to 10 edition to the 10th edition now. So very very important book. Um, and by no means are these two books. Actually, I had originally thought of presenting more than two, but then I kind of narrowed it down to these two. And then the other one is one that speaks directly to the ideas and the fallacies and the viciousness of white identity politics and where it perhaps comes from, or where it started, you know, roots of it. And that is In the Heart of the Sea, The Tragedy of the Whale Ship Essex by Nathaniel Philbrick. And I should also say this, Before the Mayflower is by Leron Bennett Jr. And I'm probably mispronouncing the name again. Um, In the Heart of the Sea, Nathaniel Philbrick. In the Heart of the Sea is a story about um, the underlying, or the source material that became Moby Dick, um, the book Moby Dick. So check out those two books. I found them to be very helpful. There's so much more that I could say, or that I could get into, in terms, especially in terms of racist hiring policies that are still enacted on Broadway or in the theater world as a whole. Um, you know, these things are real. And when people speak out about them, um, just from my personal experience, like the minute I noticed that something was up with one show that I was subbing on, and I asked the regular, you know, is it possible that this conductor is doesn't like the way I look? The regular who was white answered to me, "Well, I never noticed any racism." To which I had to reply, "Dude, you're white. How would you notice?" So this shit is real, okay? Um, any of my New Yorker musicians listening in on this, just go to 802 and take a good look at the pictures of the Broadway pits. And, with the exception of one or two shows, you will see mostly white faces. And that's a reality. And that's something that we have to change, that we have to address as musicians. It's not going to be easy. It never was. It's never going to be. So, as I said, read Before the Mayflower, read In the Heart of the Sea. Um, Keep Breonna Taylor in your mind today. If there are possibilities to donate, perhaps to her legal costs, to donate to George Floyd's relatives, relief, to donate to the NAACP, to donate to the ACLU, by all means do that. And vote. Don't don't think for a second that you have the luxury of not voting. Um, that is a fallacy, and people are dying. As I said at the beginning of this video, um, this started with the realization that we have now reached 100,000 people dead by the virus. And then all these other tragedies happened, and all these killings were made public. And I don't want to minimize it by saying it's a bitter pill to swallow, but that is something that I have a hard time dealing with. So I'm gonna leave you guys for this week. And as I say every week, be cool, be kind, and remember that we only have each other, because that's the truth. And for God's sakes, go vote in November and get this asshole out. All right, I'll see you all later.